Hello, everybody. Ella J here on behalf of WrestleZone, and today I am joined by the undefinable Sadie Gibbs. How are you today?
I'm good. I mean, it's like winter here in the UK at the moment, and it's meant to be our summer, but
I will honestly trade that. I will trade that. I'm here in the US. I am not a heat person at all, so I will trade you.
please give me all the sun. I love sun.
What is it? Is it like rainy or is it like
It's
cold?
honestly the last 2.5 weeks, it's just been grey and raining. It's been
I
all
will again, I think I will take that. I am not a heat person at all.
no, no.
So I know, I'm sorry. I'll trade you though. But
Uh,
I'm so excited to be chatting with you today. You recently had a huge announcement, and we'll definitely get into that amongst all these other things that we've got to catch up on from these last 2, 3 years that you've been away from the wrestling world. But firstly, you've been training at the Catch 2022 Pro Wrestling Academy, and
oh, my dog's
oh, I love appearances from doggos too. Okay, you've got to introduce them now, Sadie. That's mandatory.
yeah. This is Luna,
Luna.
and
Okay.
Reggie's the little one underneath me. He's
Aw.
he's just in between my legs, but hopefully they don't start barking because this one's a bit needy.
You know what's funny is that happens to me with my cats. Like they'll leave me alone, but then as soon as the camera starts on, they'll want to come
Yeah,
in the room or come in the
I don't
frame, which I think is hilarious.
know. Yeah,
Oh,
hopefully they're good as gold.
yeah.
But yeah, Catch 22. So I was really fortunate to find that. So I was doing my research. I've been having to get a lot ready. No. I've been trying to get my gear designed, so I'm getting a whole new set of gear that design, a whole new jacket. And then also, but in between that was researching training schools, and I'm so fortunate that I came across that one because it's literally 30-minute travel for me. So, and a brilliant coach. Yeah, so can't yeah, very, very it's fallen to my feet a little bit so far.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, you obviously recently announced that you will soon be returning back to the world of professional wrestling. And in that Instagram post where you're talking about Catch 22, you mentioned that your fire is back and that timing is everything. So maybe these answers overlap, but what kind of reignited your fire, your passion for wrestling, and why was now the right time to begin your return to the ring?
So I don't think it ever went. I think for me, my career in wrestling was so from here to here, which in the wrestling industry is very overwhelming and it's a lot. It can feel like a lot, and I don't think I was. If everything had planned out differently, my granddad hadn't passed, and I'd lived out in Japan a little bit longer
Yeah.
and not been signed so quickly, I think I would have had my time a little bit more gradual, and it wouldn't have been so. It just felt so quick, and I think I didn't have time to grieve my granddad because I was signed so quickly.
Yeah.
Um, and I just think over time I was broken down from everything within the business, which happens. And then obviously COVID as well. On top of all that, you're in survival mode. You've got to kind of find your feet, and I think you just go with the flow. And you take. I put my attention in what I had control over in that time, and then you're out of it. The longer you're kind of out of something, the more fear sets in, and you're like, and doubt, like you're doubting yourself, you're doubting your faults, and you're kind of in a place where you're like, all these little faults go around, and I think
Yeah.
it's got to the point now where I'm like, no, fuck. Oh, sorry, what's fair?
No, you're
Beat that.
good. You can. You're good.
Fuck that. I love it, and the moment I stepped in that ring, I knew it was for me, and it was where I honestly felt an element of, I'd done gymnastics, I'd done bodybuilding. I was always kind of okay, like I did good in those. I put my whole heart, but
Yeah.
when I stepped in the wrestling ring, I was like, this is me. But yeah, I was just like, this is me, and I guess that I had that the moment I got back in that ring at Catch 22. I was so nervous, and I had all these thoughts again on before getting anxiety. I think we've all got a bit of PTSD from lockdown and everything as well. I think
Yeah.
that definitely affected all of us, and I think the social aspect and anxiety comes in a lot with everything we do now. But the
Yeah.
moment
Yeah, and you talk about, getting back into that wrestling mindset has had a few aches and pains, both physically and mentally, like you said. So before we talk about the physical aspect of training, you pointed out that there's been some mental blocks along the way. So can you kind of talk about, I mean, you just mentioned social anxiety, but more about the process of mentally reacquainting yourself with wrestling and how you've eliminated or maybe trying to eliminate those mental blocks along the way?
I think the moment when I got to All Elite Wrestling, I think I had this imposter syndrome all of a sudden. Like I was so confident up to that point with
Yeah.
everything I was doing. I had so much self-belief, and I was like, nothing, no, nothing's going to stand in my way. I love this too much. I've got so much drive and passion. But the moment I got signed, it was like this imposter sort of, what are you doing here? You don't deserve this. And, it just, and then obviously, like I said, the lockdown kicked in and the release. And then I think over time, that mentality just got a little bit worse through lockdown, and then I just found myself getting back on my feet gradually. I went to Bali a couple of times. I managed to get there and do healing retreats, and I just really went within and focused on myself in healing. And since that, I don't know, I feel like a different person going back into it, if that makes sense. Like more self-aware, more grounded, definitely grounded. I don't think I was very grounded before. I think I was, yeah, I think that's one thing. They say you need to create your environment in order to thrive, and I feel like I've finally got that. I've got like a grounded, I've got my roots now.
Yeah,
um
you mentioned some retreats too. I know you're into holistic healing and all of that. Can you tell
yeah.
me more about that, the retreat you mentioned and how it kind of affected your mental and gave you a sense of clarity, I'm assuming, and all of that?
So I'm massively into like spirituality, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was, once I started on that journey, I just found myself wanting to go to Bali, and I found this healing retreat. At first, I just done it for health reasons, but when I was there, it was more for my mind. And I was like, wow, these people were just, first of all, they were really, I believe healers are people, and when you meet them, they can touch you in different ways, like your heart. And I had, deep reflexology, where it was almost like he was connected to parts of me that I wasn't, but I had issues with them. And it was just incredible. It was a whole MOT, mind to toe, basically. It was, yeah. And you just meet so many fantastic people that get you to see yourself before you can. Um, and yeah, I think it built me from the inside out. And I think I always seek too much external validations because of other reasons, rather than just doing things for myself. I was seeking approval, and I think that's when you're going to get knocked down a lot more than built up in what you're going for. So yeah, I think it definitely taught me a lot about myself, and I think that's what life's all about. But somehow I've gone from that to finding myself back in the ring. So do you know what, the thing that my current partner now, it was him that I always spoke about wrestling, and
Congrats
he
on
was,
getting engaged, by the way. Saw that.
thank you, yeah. It was so it's kind of him, it was him that said, why don't you get back into wrestling? All you do is talk about it. And at that point, I weren't ready to deal with that. So I got very, very defensive and reactive, and was like, because this. And my response, when I thought about it, I thought, why am I getting so defensive? What? And I really went into it, and I was like, I'm not done. Like, my heart isn't.
You talk about the mental, that's a huge aspect of getting back into it, but there's also the physical routine. So what does that physical routine look like as you're preparing for this in-ring and return, and kind of how has your body responded to training again?
So I'm quite fortunate, because fitness has always been in my, like,
Yes.
it's always been deep rooted, and I've always trained. Even, it doesn't matter what's going on in life, I train. Even with my, the two operations I had over the last 3 years, I think I was back training. So too quick, to be honest, but I'm quite good with the physical element and channeling. But since getting back in the ring, I think the difference is the impact through the body, and just, it's a whole different conditioning. It's all well and good having a fitness, but rim fitness is completely different. So yeah, I definitely, after 2.5 hours on my first session, I've been run down this week. I've had flu symptoms. I think the bruise is finally gone, but my whole right shoulder was like black here. I think it's
Yeah,
finally gone
your
now.
body's get. Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, your body's getting used to it again.
yeah. But it's just different. The way the muscles work is very different.
Mm.
But like I said, fitness wise, I'm really fortunate that I kept on top of that. So it's literally just getting conditioned to being beat around now.
You know, what has this physical routine looked like for you? You've posted a lot of clips on Instagram and Twitter and all of that, seeing you rolling around in the ring, taking these bumps. What has the early stages looked like for your training?
So when I first initially spoke to the coach, I went straight in with the way I went at it before was moves. I was like, move, because I knew that was my strong suit.
Yeah.
This time for me, I want to go into literally the foundations of footwork to timing and just feeding upright. Like that for me is going to be, I don't want to be doing pitter patter and all. I want it to look very smooth. So yeah, the first thing going back, I said, I don't want to be, don't let me, if I start asking to do flips and stuff, it's a no, because I know I can do all that. It's the real core foundation of like footwork and timing and feeding out. And that for me is more important this time than just wanting to do all the fancy moves. Yes, I think going back to like everything I feel I skipped before, just to kind of get to where I got to as quickly as I did, you know?
Yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead. I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at this time. I just really want to become a good wrestler in the ring rather than just being all about the moves. I want to know my shit basically.
Yeah. And like you said, it's been about 4 years since you've had a match. And you said in another IG post that it takes a lot to start over. And it definitely does. So, we've covered a little bit of the mental and physical, but what would you say has been the biggest challenge in starting over? And how have you kind of coped or dealt with that?
I think so, like I said, it's been going through my mind for a good couple of years. I would say the last 2 years since we started really coming out of the lockdowns, really. But I'd say the biggest challenge I've had to deal with is the mind and just getting out my own way. I would say that's the biggest. You just got to start. Like it don't matter how hard, you got to humble yourself and just get back to it. Like find that, like I said, that fire again. Find that love you had at the start, and just go with that and focus on the small steps. Don't focus on the big picture, because that's when you'll want to give up. And I think when I started out, that's what I was about. I was about like this, getting my first picture on a poster for a show, whether it's in a leisure centre. So it's just focusing on the smallest little things and then just watching it unfold, really, rather than just going, I want to be here and getting frustrated on your journey. You've got to be humble. And I think, yeah, that's the hardest thing, going back into it and humbling yourself and going, I may not be here now, but I'm I have a good starting point. That's it. So
Yeah, and I kind of wanted to take a deeper dive into your return announcement because there was a lot of content to absorb there in that Instagram post, but there was a lot of stuff, especially surrounding your past health issues, which you were dealing with the last 3 years, which I know included a cyst on your ovaries and endometriosis. You've since had both removed, which is great news, but I know you previously mentioned that those had caused some serious side effects, including seizures. So if you're comfortable with it, can you
yeah.
give us a little bit more insight into these diagnoses and how you dealt with them? You were dealing with seizures, I think, like in 2020 or while you were still in
Yeah,
AEW. It was crazy to think about.
it was literally as I was signed, it started to get
Yeah.
worse. And I don't know if that was the stress and everything as well. But the vagal synscopes, so they become, which they call them episodes. So it was
Yeah.
almost like one of them, it happened with one of my partners around, and I literally sat on the edge of the bed and said, I feel sick. Next thing he said, fell onto the floor. eyes rolled back and I just spasmed out and went rock hard. So once someone had witnessed it, I kind of knew what was happening, because the first two, one was at work I fell off a toilet and hit my head on the door
Oh
and
my
found myself
God.
on the
Yeah.
floor, and like didn't know how that had happened. And it was always around my time of month. So straight away I was like, okay, something's going on in the women's area. I didn't
Mhm.
know. So I just started getting smear tests and, getting all the checks. I actually got a regular smear. So I started to think it was something a lot serious.
Yeah.
And then had the scan and they found a cyst the size of a lime, which is, it's called a dermoid. So it's not like a normal cyst, like polycystic. It's like an
Yeah.
inactive tumor that grows with you as you get older, and it can eventually twist your ovary. So I was at a point where it could have twisted my ovary and caused me a lot of damage, but I caught it
Yeah.
at the right time because I was with the gynecologist for endometriosis, and they found that. Then got to have the laparoscopy. I can never say it. So that where they cut all them holes and cut it out, and
Yeah.
so the op, and they found the endometriosis as well. So I was kind of fortunate to get that both done in one go. But yeah, that was a bit of a nightmare leading up to the actual operation of that. But yeah, scary. It was scary. But this the thing, we all know our body, and we know when it's run down and stressed. But the thing, healing and everything takes time, and I think we just think we have an operation, oh, you get the healing time, but there's so much that leads up to that, and the stress and everything that could have led to the seizures and it being worse.
Yeah.
But yeah, my blood pressure would drop. I got picked up in an ambulance twice before the operation, so it was a big lead up before I got to the bottom of it, basically.
Yeah. At least by that point in the lead up, you kind of knew what was going on before the operation, but like still, thank God that you realized there was kind of a pattern to it, around your time of the month. Like
Yeah,
it could have, I mean, it could have been like PCOS, like you mentioned. But still, like endometriosis and a cyst is nothing to like. Yeah, I can't imagine. I'm glad obviously now both have been since removed, but how are you feeling right now in
I'm
regards to your health after all of that?
probably the best I've felt health wise in a long time. So yeah, feeling good, very good, physically
Okay.
good.
That
Hopefully.
that is good, you know. I
Yeah,
I can't even imagine while you're trying to like wrestle and then stay into fitness and then all of a sudden your blood pressure is dropping and you're having seizures. I just can't even I'm so glad that, everything got taken care of and hopefully it stays away. Those things I
yeah,
know can come back sometimes, but health aside, I know you were dealing with a lot professionally as well at kind of the height of the pandemic, trying to move over to the States and the pandemic hit. You were stuck in the UK, which led to your exit from AEW. But you said in your post in that return announcement that it was a contract today to AEW that you gave your heart and your soul to, but you didn't feel as if you were ready for it. So just for some clarification, did you feel you weren't ready to sign a contract or you weren't ready for the departure? And can you elaborate on why you didn't feel that you were ready?
I think in terms of being ready, I think I was more than, I know I had worked hard for that position, but I think my experience before going to TV wasn't ready. But then when is anyone ready for anything when you get a step up? I think I work well under pressure, but I think just maybe it was my mindset and I would say maybe my mindset wasn't ready at the time because of everything I'd gone through and I was going through at that time.
Yeah.
Trauma is different for grief, and trauma is
Yeah.
different for everyone, and we all need our own time to heal. But yeah, I would say if I could have done a little bit more time out in Japan and finished that off, maybe I would have had that experience because you're training a lot, and I just would have felt a lot more confident in going there. But I think, yeah, my confidence just went as soon as I got signed. So for me, that was maybe it's a bit too soon, but hence why I was planning on moving, because I thought I can train more, I can be, within the Nightmare Factory, and yeah, that was my plan. So that's why I made that decision to move, because I needed the experience. I wanted
Yeah.
but yeah, didn't go to plan.
life, a lot of things got derailed for a lot
No,
of people.
yeah,
You just unfortunately were one of the people who got kind of, I don't know. I don't know if it would have been better. Would it have been better if you got like stranded in the US or stranded in the UK? I don't
well,
know. It
yeah,
was like a tricky situation for a lot of people. I don't
yeah.
know.
Everything happens for a reason. I
Yeah,
strongly believe that. But
you know. And I know in a previous interview, assuming, everything didn't happen the way it did, you said that you didn't feel that you properly got to showcase your skills in AEW. You only got like 3 matches during your run out there. So
yeah.
you did what you could, but maybe if the ball was in your court and you had more time and control and the pandemic basically didn't happen, what would you have liked your AEW run to look like? What did you envision Sadie Gibbs doing when you initially signed to AEW?
I mean, I do believe I've got a very strong character
Yes.
in what my character's all about, the undefinable. And I think it's taken me this long to kind of finally believe in it. And that come across when I do promos and things like that. So I think it's hard to say, but I would have liked to have had a very strong run and eventually, been in a title match, but it's yeah, at one point I really wanted to tag team with Chris Stratlander as well. I just found we were very similar in our background and
Yeah.
structure. Um so that would have been cool. But you can't really say because as much as you'd love complete creative
Yeah.
control, there is an element of um the amount of control you have in what you do.
Yeah,
So
I think you and Chris Statlander would have gelled well together. I feel like you're very fit, you're very, I don't know, very striking characters too as well. She's a little bit morphed since the last time that you had kind of seen her slash worked with her. But she's now the TBS champion. She's been doing a lot. And we
yeah,
talked about once the pandemic started, it was a big halt on your wrestling career, which led you then to put all your eggs into the fitness basket and retire. So I want to talk about a little bit about your time away from the ring, which I know you gave a lot of your focus to your lifestyle coaching and the Undefinable Living brand, which is focused on creating a safe community for health and fitness. So can you tell us more about this brand and the intentions behind it?
so with Undefinable Living, it's kind of evolved since
Yes.
over the 3 years. It's really gone. I've always known what I've loved because I've coached for nearly 12 years now,
Yes.
13, I think. And I've always known that I was great with people's mindsets because whenever my clients kind of would leave, it wouldn't be just about their body, their confidence. They would walk in round shoulder. And I just really enjoyed the aspects of uplifting people and transforming their mind and how they see themselves and how they speak to themselves. And over time, as I've done that better for myself, I've been able to kind of deliver that to my clients as well. And Undefined is still evolving, it's still growing, and the new website's actually about to launch, Undefinable Living, where it's going to have mindset talks, and it's got 1.0 going to be on there, which is a fitness the whole fitness, how do I word it, stages, but it's like there's about 10 videos of different workouts and you can start in the beginner, intermediate or advanced. So it's all building, but yeah, that's always been my passion, helping people. And it's just how I kind of give back after doing the work on myself as well. But yeah, that really helped in terms of transitioning because I still had my focus in a big part of who I am. I also worked in a prison as well for a little while, teaching on healthy living, which yeah, everything transitioned into now. But yeah, I enjoy everything I do and everything I'm building and creating. But there was always a part of me since leaving wrestling that just felt I hadn't finished. There was a chapter kind of unfinished. And I think unless I gave it another go, I would never have known, and it would have been should I, shouldn't I? And I don't like living my life like that. So, all in and let's see.
Yeah, and you mentioned you've been a lifestyle coach for about 13 years now. I'm curious what originally prompted you to seek that profession?
So this is going into something personal now. When I was younger, I was a gymnast since the age of 4.
Yes.
But in terms of the fitness side, again, this is where I talk about the mindset and emotions and everything. My mum and dad split up, and I just found myself running a lot. So I'd run to school, I'd run home after school, even in a skirt and shoes. And I just channeled a lot of, which I didn't know at that time because you don't really have self-awareness as a kid, channeled a lot of like pain, I guess, into my fitness. I'd run up and down the stairs in my house, which wasn't that big. I must have done my mother's head in, but I'd run up and down, sit ups at the bottom, press ups at the top. I was only 13 at the time. And from that, I just found a love for how you know, it become a, it can become unhealthy as well because it become a bit of an obsession for me, and probably didn't deal, which I've done the last 3 years, where I actually lent into my emotions. I tried to fight them a lot of the time. So the whole concept of undefinable living is everything I've kind of journeyed through, and how fitness has helped me and been an outlet for me, and other ways of outlets as well, because not everyone's as mental as me running up and down stairs in the house.
No.
But yeah, it's just learning. That's where it started for me. And then I remember saying when I was 13, I'm going to have my own PT business, and it's just evolved from that. So
you just have an incredible just mindset and everything, and you've talked before about what undefinable means, but I think that spirit is perfectly encapsulated by your spine tattoo, which translated from Arabic means success is never final and failure never fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. Can you tell us more about what this tattoo means to you and what prompted you to get that specific quote on you?
so that was kind of when I actually got that, when I first fell into wrestling. So was transitioning from the bodybuilding world, which again was a massive self journey. That's a
Yeah.
crazy world in itself, and you learn a lot about yourself. And I just realized, like, who you're becoming, and hence the brand, is always evolving into your path. And if you focus on who you're becoming, you'll align with everything that's kind of coming, and you won't ever feel like just because something didn't work out is kind of what defines you and what determines what's next. It's okay. You take it as, okay, that happened for me because this is meant to be now, and I couldn't have done this if it wasn't for that. And that's kind of what the tattoo means. It's more like, as long as you keep going, have the courage to pursue yourself, not what you're doing or who you, yeah, pursue yourself, because honestly, that's what tests you in life. Your own self. You're always in your own way. Nothing else is in your way. And yeah, that's the best journey. That's the journey that I'm constantly on, because I believe you're your own, yeah,
Yeah.
successor and detriment.
Yeah, I've heard you talk about what undefinable means. You described it as not keeping yourself confined to one box, but also recognizing that you can create a new path. And you certainly did that for yourself when you decided to step away from the ring in 2021. Upon your retirement, you mentioned the idea of writing a self-development book and also doing some short films. Do you kind of have any updates on these projects?
So the book, I think that's going to be something later on.
Okay.
I've still got a lot to learn about myself and need a lot more experience before I sit down and really start. But I know the concept of the book, and it is going to be all about, my previous experiences and how they transition into going forwards. And obviously the whole, you're not defined by who you think you are, you're defined by who you want to be. And just about remaining undefinable, really. But the short film, going on that, we've actually spoke, and we're going to be doing more like a series on YouTube, because I think that's going to work better than building up this big hype of a film. What he wanted, he's known as, he's done a few films, but the budget was just, it was quite large.
Is this in regards to your upcoming documentary or something completely separate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the documentary. Oh, you're on about the getting into films. That would, that's always been, more so like the stunt stuff. And
Ah.
yeah, that's like stage combat and screen fighting.
Oh,
That's something that is completely different to wrestling though.
yeah.
I thought it transitioned, but it's very, very different. But I did a bit of that back in 2022. I worked with someone on that and was meant to be, but again, life took off and I haven't got around to that. But that's something again where I've got to get qualified and everything like that. But
Okay.
you know,
So kind of in the works still with short films, I guess you would label it as.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But
We'll talk about the documentary in a minute because that's an exciting project. I'm really looking forward to that.
yeah.
But you mentioned your upcoming return to wrestling. With that in mind, do you still plan to pursue, I mean, these short film gigs, or how do you plan to balance your business, wrestling, and everything else that you're involved with now?
This is the thing. I'm learned. That's another thing I've learned. I take on too much a lot of the time.
I
Like,
feel that.
yeah.
Feel that.
So Sadie Gibbs in itself I've really separated the two brands now because I do want Undefinable Living to bring on other holistical coaches and healers, and that's the long-term goal. So I really tried hard to separate that from Sadie Gibbs, and the two different websites that are coming out. But the main thing for me now is just to focus on my InRing Return and just see where that goes. And if in time it transitions to me having time to then pursue the film stuff, and that's where my route goes, amazing. But right now I've realized to make things work, you've really got to narrow down your focuses, because otherwise you just burn out and it's too much.
Yeah, and you mentioned in your announcement there will be a documentary, or maybe like you said, YouTube series surrounding your journey to returning to the ring. I'm not sure how much you can share or how far you're into it, but what do you think fans can expect from this documentary slash YouTube series?
So it's more going on like I've worked with this videographer, God, since I can remember, probably the last 6 years. So he's got so much backdate content. We made actually a short film slash, when I got released, we did like a little film, which is on YouTube, which will be transitioned in about kind of being released. So it's going to go from the point of release to it back in, my journey back in. But we're going to do it as like a YouTube series instead of like one film.
Yeah.
Which is going to work better. So it'll be like short clips. We'll have our objective of each video that we're going to do, what we want to kind of put across in that video, and then go from there, just see what it leads into. But hopefully, yeah, it'll be a good series showing the ins and outs of the journey, really.
Now, maybe the most burning question we have, and I don't even know if you can answer this. Do you know when where your return match will take place? And if not for certain, do you have an ideal place or time you'd like for it to take place?
At the moment, I've got one match lined up, which is in November, and that's in Germany. So yeah, I was their DWA champ for a while. And not sure. We've got one person in mind who's going to be with, and she's also from Germany, and she's a very good wrestler. I think I've watched her a long time, so we'll see. Okay. We'll see if anything comes before that, because that's a long way off. But like I said, it's getting the gear made. Once that's all in my hands, and it all feel real.
Now, is Sadie Gibbs officially open for bookings right now, or what's the status with that?
Definitely from the end of August.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's coming up really quick. That's about a month away. Yeah.
Yeah. Mid-September, end of August, I'm hoping to have all my gear and everything. I mean, it's a lot to get done and a lot to be
yeah, that's so soon, but so exciting.
Definitely want to be in the ring by October.
Yeah. By the fall. Although by this right now you said it's winter, it might be double winter by the fall then for the who knows though. But you've been out of the wrestling space for a bit. I don't know, have you kept up with any of the current wrestling product, whether it's mainstream or on the indie level?
I'm going to be honest, recently I've just started doing researching and getting back into it, but I literally went through a breakup with wrestling.
Yeah.
That's how I worded it. I shut it all out, and I probably unfollowed everything, but it was still on my feed. So I know that was the universe still going.
Yeah.
But I tried to shut it all out and just move forward with my life. And I do feel sometimes that's the only way you can. If you're still dabbling, when you need to make sure, like I said, your focus is in the things you need to do at that time. But yeah, no, slowly getting it all back into my life. And there's a lot that's changed. There's a lot of change, and it's very exciting as well. Change is
Yeah.
always
A lot of, I mean, especially just on the indies alone, there's been a lot of growth, despite the pandemic. Like, I feel like a lot of the spaces have grown a lot, especially for the women in wrestling, especially throughout the UK and Europe. They're getting a lot more eyes on there. So I'm curious, as you're kind of reacquainting yourself with wrestling, I don't know how familiar you are with all the figures going on around there, but are there certain opponents that you've got your maybe eyes on that you'd like to face upon your return?
not just yet, not just
Okay.
yet. So that's something I need to start building back in and seeing and putting out there. But right now, I think it's for me. My main focus is getting my gear done, getting my images done for that. Because you have to have those done before you start putting yourself out for bookings. And just making the look, get combat look, and getting all ready again in the ring, training up. But I will start searching out opponents once I feel ready to take them on. But I think right now it's just all the fundamentals and yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like that kind of goes hand in hand with my next question anyway, like your short-term goals. Like you said, I think it's going to be more of a gradual transition. You're kind of regaining your footing in there. What else does your short-term plan and kind of hopes look like in regards to your return?
I'm actually I've been in touch with a promotion in Japan. Not gonna name, it's not
Yeah.
Stardom.
I could have guessed that, but go.
Just my experience and professionalism. That's my only opinion, but I still love the Joshi style wrestling and the strong style. And for me, it's where I just felt like in that ring out there, that was where I really felt like I was flying, literally. So I would love to get back to Japan. That's a short-term/long-term goal, and just really do that intensely. But until then, I just want to get some small matches in here and there, and just see kind of where I'm at, where my mind's at in the ring, whether it's and just start feeling back in. But my main short-term goal is to hopefully get back to Japan.
Yeah, I'm curious. I've heard a lot of, the Joshi style, strong style. I feel like captivates a lot of people. What about the Joshi style of wrestling really kind of gravitates you to it?
I'm a very aggressive character, as you might have seen. So
Yes.
I just think I love connection. I'm not afraid of connection. And it's for me, it's you kind of when you're in there, it feels so, I don't know. You just feel like everything connects, and it's obviously like anything, sometimes you're not going to get that, but I just really enjoyed the style. I think because I'm a very aggressive character, and it just aligned with everything I'm about, really. And it's just I don't know how to.
Yeah.
I just felt the style was very much me. I've done a bit of MMA and stuff, and it just really aligned with that, and just it was just my character all in. Hard hitting and strong. So
Yeah. And short term wise, obviously like you mentioned, Japan is huge on there, just gradually getting yourself reacquainted in it. But I feel like you're definitely a visionary, I feel like, in everything with that. So kind of long term wise, do you have kind of hopes to sign somewhere again, or what do you envision yourself doing it in a year or two? Once you've got your footing down, do you kind of have a vision for yourself?
um of course, I would love to be re-signed, but I want to really feel like I've earned that position,
Yeah.
and I'm not you know, uh trial and error kind of thing. It's like this girl's got talent, she's gonna be great.
Yeah.
Let's sign her and see how she's gonna be. We want Sadie Gibbs. I kind of want to be at that point, and feel that in myself as well, rather than let's take a chance on this girl. I don't want that this time. I want, and I feel it was kind of that last time they saw my talent, But they also knew maybe I'm not, I'm not quite ready, but they took a chance. And yeah, we'll see. There's fantastic opportunities out there at the moment. There's many promotions. So yeah, if any come my way, I'll be definitely weighing out the pros and cons and seeing whether it's aligned with me, and hopefully find stepping on the right path in that one. But as I said, I just want to be so experienced where I'm not doubting myself when it comes to those contracts being in front of me, or yeah. So we'll see. But
Yeah, I'm looking forward to what you have up your sleeve. And last question, you mentioned you're getting your ring gear together. You've been practicing your moves in the ring, your character. What can fans expect from this revived version of Sadie Gibbs, both character-wise and in the ring, as the undefinable Sadie Gibbs?
definitely experience expect, sorry, not experience, just a much, I want to come back on the promos and really build my character before bringing all the moves in. So I will be holding off on the big moves that I was known for a while, because I think I need to save.
Better safe than sorry too, especially starting out. Yeah.
I just feel the Sasuke is such an amazing move, and I've done my research and I still think I'm the only girl that's ever done it. I mean, if you can show me, otherwise I've tried to look, and I think but that move for me was the it move when I did it, and it was like it was the undefinable move for me. It was like the and I feel I threw it in there too. I let it be saturated a little bit, and it should be a move that's saved. So yeah, I want to hold off on the flips and everything. Definitely the moonsault will be coming in there. That was a lot of power moves, and just better footwork and a much stronger character over what I actually do in the ring. Quality over quantity. That's I think I was all about, if I said that the wrong way around. Quality.
You want more quality over quantity.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So yeah, I want to be able to do less but have more in my character, because that's what I always loved about the old school. They didn't have to do much, but when they did do something, it was like, so yeah, well, that's all what I've got to create and find. I'm hoping to come back a lot stronger in my character and my self-belief in the undefinable.
Yeah, it's kind of like an experimental thing when you're coming back. Do you feel, like you said, it's kind of an experimental thing, kind of still figuring out who your character is. Do you feel like you'll still be drawn towards the undefinable label, or will you kind of maybe go back to Amazing Grace, or like what's your standing on that, at least?
Definitely still the undefinable, because that is what I become from the Amazing. But the Amazing Grace is always part of me. Like, the whole concept of the Amazing Grace was finding grace in my path, and really just having that. The moment I found wrestling, it was just like an overwhelming feeling of grace in everything I did. And that'll always be part of me, but I won't need to find myself with that, let's say. But the undefinable is me, and I've got that character is going to come across without me having to
so whatever that looks like, like you said, it's still a process of getting yourself reacquainted. So whatever that looks like, I'm really excited to see you back in the ring. I know fans have been yearning. I had people messaging me from Australia, messaging saying they miss you, all over the UK, obviously here in the States, Japan, everywhere. We look forward to this official return from Sadie Gibbs. Before we let you go, can you let the listeners know where they can find you on your social media?
So all my social medias are at the Sadie Gibbs.
Sadie, thank you so much for chatting with me today. It's been a serious pleasure, and congratulations that you're engaged now. You're embarking on this new journey. I know it's a process in balancing everything, but like I said, there are so many people excited for your return, including myself. And whenever this documentary / YouTube series is going to come out, I'm excited to see everything that's been going on, a little updates. So thank you again for chatting with me.
Thank you. Been a pleasure.